Bill McGurn is with us now from the Wall Street Journal. Bill, a Fox contributor as well. You know, I read this research report, good to see you, Bill, from Dan Clifton this morning at Strategas, who's very smart, and it kind of put it all in perspective for me as to why we, you know, especially from the perspective of a business audience, care about these Georgia races. He says it's the $2 trillion Senate election in Georgia, making the point that if the Democrats win, you could have stimulus that's like $3 trillion. But if the Republicans hold it, they're likely to spend less, maybe $1 trillion. So there's a lot on the line here. What do you make of what's happening down there in Georgia?
Yeah, well, as you say, Connell, everything's on the line because right now with Democrats having control of the House and the White House, there's nothing to stop them from some of the more radical plans like stuffing the court or inviting new states in, which would mean new Democratic senators. The only thing that's really a hedge against that is Georgia, and I'd say a lot of the focus is on the recount of votes in the presidential race, and it seems that some of President Trump's supporters are saying, you know, get the Republicans in line or boycott the races in Georgia. I think that's the exact opposite message in terms of what Donald Trump's interests are. Donald Trump had some extraordinary achievements in turning around this economy with his tax cuts, with his deregulation, his judicial picks, his 3 slots on the Supreme Court. All this is in jeopardy if Democrats take control of the Senate.
But the fact that he hasn't conceded and that recount is still out there as a story, do you think it will hurt Republicans? Is it at the very least a distraction to their efforts in Georgia? I mean, I guess you could make the opposite argument in some ways that, it could fire up people. I don't know. We'll have to see. But what do you think?
Well, it could. I think it depends on what the president says. But if the assumption is that we're going to get back at Republicans for insufficiently supporting Donald Trump and his recounts, I think the real harm will be Donald Trump's legacy. And let's not forget, he had a lot of achievements, and the Democrats really want to turn those around. And the best guarantee against that, the best guarantee of the president's legacy is to encourage Republicans to come out and win those Senate races and keep some of these achievements in place.
It's kind of an issue by issue, predicament there, so to speak, because Steve Moore was on with us earlier. He's been a supporter of the president's policies, and he's concerned about climate change, that President-elect Biden is talking so much about it. But as Steve and I were talking about, that's kind of the type of issue that you can make changes with the stroke of a pen by executive order. So Georgia maybe doesn't matter as much there. But on, say, taxes, it could be very important because if you're an investor now at the end of the year, you're thinking maybe I should sell some of these stocks that have run up a lot because, if the Democrats take the Senate, they take both these seats, then we might have higher taxes next year. So to me, taxes, that does come down to Georgia, right?
Yeah, and deregulation. Look, it comes down to this. There's a lot of stuff that Joe Biden could do through executive power and executive orders, but there's still an awful lot of big things that you need Congress to do. And anything that Congress has to do would probably sail through the House, but we need Mitch McConnell and the Republicans to stop it and check in and make sure that we don't get an AOC, Bernie Sanders agenda going through the Senate.
What's your sense of how close it really is there? I think a lot of Republicans have been almost assuming, maybe that's too strong of a word, but thinking that, well, as Republicans, we only need to win 1 out of 2 here. We'll get it in Georgia. But the statewide races have been very close in recent memory in that state. And obviously, Biden ended up winning Georgia on the presidential side. So it even went the other way in that case in a traditionally red state. What's your sense of these races? Do you have one?
Look, I'm not an expert on Georgia. My sense is this. My sense would have been that the Republicans have the advantage in these runoffs. In one case, it's down to a 2-man race rather than a 3-man race. But I think the other big lesson of 2020 is we can't take anything for granted. No assumption is safe. And that when you see all this money going in because people realize the stakes, you're going to have to fight for every gain you have. And again, a lot depends on whether people see this as supporting the Republican Party and supporting the Republican agenda that Donald Trump put through, or whether whether a lot of those people who voted for Donald Trump see this as a way to get back at other Republicans. I hope it's the former.
That'll speak to turnout a lot in these races. A lot of money being spent and a lot of money on the line. Bill, thank you as always.